Kisses like, do you love me or not? Head is spinning and it don't know when to stop. You said forever, babe, did you mean it or not? Hold on, hold on. You leave me on red, babe, but I still get the message. Instead of a line, it's 3 dots, but I can connect them. And if it ain't right, babe, you know I respect it. But if you need time, just take your time. Honey, I get it, I get it, I get it. Way you got me all in my head. Think I'd rather you in my bed. Whatever it is, you know I can take it. I'm counting the days, how many days till I can see you again. Oh, and kisses like, will you catch 'em or not? I'm Cupid with arrows, babe, I'm just shooting my shot. If I could get in, drop me a pin, hop in the whip and come over. Don't wanna be friends, just skin to skin, I wanna get closer, closer, closer. The way you got me all in my head. Think I'd rather you in my bed. Whatever it is, you know I can take it. I'm counting the days, how many days till I can see you again. Oh, my love, holding my feelings, baby. You got me on, loving all in my bed. You got me on, you got me on in my bed. You got me on in my bed. You got me on, you got me on in my bed. You got me on in my bed.
What is good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode brought to you by the League FFB. Man, I won't lie, that's one of my favorite songs probably of the year. I won't lie to you. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. I see Anthony in here says track intro is fire. If you know, you know. Look, I know, and I know that's a damn good song. But look, we're here for another Q&A here. It's Friday night. So as we do every Friday night, we're going to be answering some fantasy football questions, whether that be dynasty questions that you guys got, some redraft questions, start sits, waivers, trades, or if you want to get a little bit out of the box, you want to ask me whatever. This is a Q&A. Ask me anything. You can do that, and we're going to be doing that tonight. So go ahead and drop whatever you got in the chat. I see we got a ton of love in the chat already to start the night. Cash Money, appreciate you. Smitty, Jag, Steven, Anthony, Jeremy, Dixon, Peter, Jonathan, everybody. I appreciate you all being here tonight. Means a lot. But look, we're not going to waste any more time. Like I said, this is what we're doing tonight. I will let you know right before we get into it, if you do want to support the show, as always, the best way to do that is to play over on Underdog. Let me get this off the damn screen. It's play over on Underdog. If you're a new customer, you can sign up using code LEAGUEFFB. And when you do that, they will give you $50 in bonus funds, and they're also going to give you a gimme pick. Lots of promos this week for new customers. So if you've never tried it out, now is the perfect time. Like I said again at the beginning, code LEAGUEFFB is how you're going to support the show. And if you don't want to play on Underdog, maybe you already have an account on Underdog, maybe you say, hey, look, money's tight. I don't want to do anything right now that involves money. The best free way to show this channel some support is to hit the like button. So make sure you do that for me tonight, if that's all you want to do. And there is literally no obligation to ever support this channel financially. I just appreciate your guys' views. So let's stop yapping, man. Let's get right back into this. And we're going to kick it off at the beginning. I do see we got a couple people. Jeff says, what up? We got Yo from Nolan. You're from Jonathan. Peter says, how you doing? And like I said, my guy Anthony says, fire intro. So let's kick it with the first question. We do have Cash Money who says, what's up? Was offered Drake London for my Devontae Adams. Would you take the upside risk on London? I have Amon-Ra, Odunze, Diggs, and Io Manor. Yeah, I mean, I would be taking the upside on Drake London. I think Adams has looked great. Obviously, he's dealing with a little bit of an injury at the moment. Drake London's a player who I had higher coming into the year. I still believe he can turn it around. They've had a tough matchup against the Vikings and some things like that. I would be taking London and hoping it turns around. And plus, with you having Amon-Ra and Odunze, you can take a little bit of risk for the upside here. So give me that London side as well. Smitty says, Rattler or Browning, since Jaden Daniels didn't want to put on any muscle during the offseason. Shaking my head. This is tough, and we're really down in the dumps right here, but I think if I have to choose between the two, I am going to go with Jake Browning in this matchup. I just think the offense is better. It didn't look good last week, but I would have more trust in him than Spencer Rattler at the moment. Jag says, week 4, let's get it. Follows that up with a question that says, very deep at wide receiver with Puka, JSN, Tet, BTJ, Ricky P, Sutton, DK, and I was able to pull off DK and Sutton for Bowers and Golden, a 10-team PPR, but he just lost Evans and Terry. He was starting Hollywood. Desperate, and I like that. I like the ability with your deep wide receiver core to go get a guy like Brock Bowers in a full PPR league. Hopefully Bowers ticks it up just a little bit more, because so far he's been kind of disappointing, but obviously we're not going to be upset with the production that he's still giving us at the tight end position. Steven says Packers or Texans defense this week. Give me the Packers defense, man. I'm still going to take them. I think they're one of the best defenses in football. Anthony says pick 4. We're starting 2 wide receivers, 2 flexes. Sutton, Egbuka, Wilson, McMillan, Metcalf, and he also has Judkins and Jake Ferguson as flex options. Running back in 1 and 2 are Bijan and Mason. So let's see. Pick 4 of them. If I'm starting the 2 wide receivers, I'm going to go with Egbuka and Tetero and McMillan. Those are going to be the 2 guys. I'm going to flex Garrett Wilson. And I think I'm going to flex Judkins. So give me McMillan, Wilson, Egbuka, and Judkins. I kind of wanted to try and get Sutton in the lineup as well, but this is a good team. You should be pretty solid. I like Judkins' workload, though, this week. I think it's going to be pretty good. Smitty says start 1 with Monty Henderson and Javonte Williams. I do like Javonte Williams is the best play there. And he says start 2 wide receivers with Olave, Higgins, Sutton, and Olave twice. Hopefully you don't have 2 Olaves on your team. I mean, maybe that would be cool. But he says out of those options of running back and wide receiver, who would you put in the flex? Okay. So we're picking the 1. It's going to be Javonte Williams. The 2 wide receivers, I'm going to go with Sutton and Olave. And if I have to pick one in the flex, I think I'm going to go with Higgins in the flex. I kind of was toying with Monty, but he doesn't have a ton of upside in this game either, unless he gets into the end zone. It's a tougher matchup. We'll see. I think Higgins has the higher ceiling. He has a lower floor. If you want a floor play, go Monty for the flex. But those would be the players at each position. Jeremy says, good morning, or good morning, what the hell am I doing? Good evening, Andrew. Love the consistent content, and in a 9-player PPR format, would you trade Brian Thomas Jr. and Trey Benson for CeeDee Lamb plus a 2nd-round pick? I would absolutely do that. I think that's great. A good deal. Maybe selling low based on people's market expectation of Trey Benson, but I don't give a shit when I'm getting CeeDee Lamb. Just give me CeeDee Lamb, man. Dixon says, hey, I feel insane, but I'm heavily considered benching Chase Brown and Jamar Chase for Scatabo and QJ in PPR this week. Am I insane? It feels crazy. It feels crazy, but I'll tell you what. I have both Chase Brown and Scatabo in one of my leagues. I'm playing Scatabo over Chase Brown. I'm going to flex Chase Brown in my flex, but I would still play Chase over QJ, but I don't mind if you go Scatabo over Chase Brown. Peter, my guy, he says, how you doing, Andrew? I'm doing good tonight, Peter. Hopefully everything's going good for you as well. Keaton says start Golden or Iomanner this week. I think Iomanner is the safer floor play. Golden might have a higher ceiling, though, if he can finally start getting a bigger target share. But I think I would still just go Iomanner here. Steven says pick 3, half PPR, Debo, Ted McMillan, Devontae, and Tyreek. Give me Devontae, Ted McMillan, and then it's between Debo and Tyreek for the last one. I think if I have to double check my rankings here, it's probably going to be somewhat close. Give me... I'm going Debo with Terry McLaurin being out of this game. Just give me Debo, man. All right, what do we got here? Jeff says, what up, Jeff? Keaton says, traded Keenan for Benson and Iomanner. Do you like or dislike this? I think I prefer Keenan. I'm assuming this is a redraft to Keaton, but I kind of like Keenan more than the Benson and Iomanner one. Jack says upset of the week, asking for a friend who is in the pick'em poll. Let's pull up my phone real quick so I can see which teams are favorited, and I'll tell you my upset of the week. Maybe I shouldn't do this every week for you, Jag, if I want to keep in first place of our pick'em pool here. But underdog of the week. Let's see. I don't know if there's really any underdogs to take. An underdog of the week, though, is it crazy to say that Cincinnati is going to beat Denver? I think Cincinnati could beat Denver. That would be my underdog of the week if I have to pick it. I don't know if I'll pick them in the pick'em pool, though. But that would be my bet. I bet the money you can get in a betting market is pretty decent on that one. Matt says, yo, what up, Matt? Mason or Scattaboo, full PPR, and Tyreek or Pearsall. I would probably go with Mason over Scat. Nah, that's a close one. Let me double check. I kind of want to go Mason. I do have Mason one spot higher than Scatabo in my rankings. So I am going to do that. And then Tyreek or Pearsall, give me Tyreek. Juicy says, yo, hit the like because I'm poor. Hey, you don't got to be poor to hit the like button. You could be rich and hit the like button too, Juicy. But he says, bench one, Keenan, Pickens, T-Mac, Scat. Thank you. Of these options, I'm probably going to bench... I think I'm going to bench Scattaboo. I think he's the guy. Even though I like him this week, I just think Pickens, T-Mac, and Keenan are very safe plays, and they have pretty solid ceilings too. He says, I also traded Monty for T-Mac. Is that a W? Absolutely. I'd love that deal for you. I would rather have T-Mac. Bruce City Bob says, full PPR, tight end premium. You start one with Andrews or Golden. Yikes. Tight end premium, give me Andrews, but not confidently. Maybe I'm just week 3 biased, but I think I'd still go Andrews. John, he says, yo, what up, John? Appreciate you being here. Bert says, PPR, I traded Scary Terry and Jake Ferguson for Brian Thomas Jr. and Darnell Mooney. Also, I have Kittle and Njoku at tight end. What are your thoughts? Traded Terry and Ferguson for BTJ and Mooney. I mean, that's a buy low opportunity right there on Brian Thomas. If you think he can get it back together, I don't mind that. The fact that you have Kittle and Njoku, you don't really need Ferguson. He might be a little bit overproducing at the moment. This is a good buy low opportunity. We'll see if it pans out, but I like this one, Bert. Hunter Henry or Kelsey. Give me Hunter Henry this week. Nolan says 10-man redraft. I got Omar. Who's Omar? And Bijan. Amarion Hampton, and Bijan. Week 5, Bijan bye. Got offered Josh Allen and Breece Hall for Jaden Daniels and Amarion Hampton. I can't do this right. So you got offered Josh Allen and Breece Hall. You could do it, but I would probably stay pat. It's not a bad deal, but I would stay pat on Daniels and Amarion Hampton at the moment. Top 5 says half PPR. You got to pick one between Sutton, BTJ, and Debo. I think Sutton is the best pick here if you're just looking for floor. I think he's might have the highest ceiling of the guys at the moment too until we see some signs of life from BTJ. But it sounds like in practice this week they're trying to get him the ball. We'll see if that wrist injury is anything different. Breece Hall or ETN. I would go Breece this week. I like the matchup for him against the Dolphins. Should be a pretty good one for him to potentially put up some points there. Romeo Dobbs at Dallas or Quinshon at Detroit, PPR. Absolutely, I'm going Quinshon Judkins there. Love or Knicks? Interesting question. I want to say I'm going Love. They're back-to-back, actually. I do have Knicks one spot higher, so give me Knicks one spot higher than Jordan Love in my rankings this week. Dynasty League, I traded Garrett Wilson, Benson, and Ricky for Lamar. Got to be good, right? If you have the wide receiver depth, absolutely, especially if it's a super flex. If this is a super flex league, then you're definitely cooking with gas here. So I like that. Oh, he says Jamar, not Lamar. That's a difference. But yeah, still good for Jamar Chase. Absolutely. Matt says 12-team PPR traded T and Mason for Garrett Wilson. I'm 0-3. My running backs are Gibbs, Bucky. My wide receivers are Marvin Harrison Jr., Debo, Waddle, and Hunter. Yeah, I kind of like this one. I'm not very high on T. Higgins the rest of the year. The loss of Joe Burrow is massive for him in fantasy, so I do like this deal for you. And if you're trying to get some momentum to try and go get your first win, getting rid of a guy like T. Higgins, who I don't think has that ceiling anymore, is probably a good way to start. So good luck to you, my friend. Hopefully you do get that first win here this week. Start one in the flex. You got Troy Franklin, Aya Manor, Woody Marks, or Shakir in a full PPR. I think it's Khalil Shakir for me as probably the best play there for the flex. Dixon says we got to start two with Quinshon Judkins, Matthew Golden, Chase Brown, David Montgomery, and then he says also Packers or New England defense. So if I'm starting two, I'm going to go with, I think David Montgomery and Quinshon Judkins would be the two guys that I'm playing, and then I'm going to play the Packers defense there in that matchup. We do have a super chat here from Kyle. Appreciate Kyle. $2 here. This is a reminder for the folks at home. If you want to skip the line, I know it's kind of busy tonight, but if you want to skip the line and get your question answered immediately, a super chat is the best way to do that. So he says Henderson, Aya Manor, or Golden in PBR. He needs one. It's going to be Trevion Henderson for me this week. I think he is in for a pretty decent game. Obviously, they said, there was some fumbling stuff with Ramondre Stevenson. Vrabel said they're not going to punish him, but I think they're going to give Henderson a little bit more touches this week. So give me Trevion Henderson there in this week's matchup. Thank you again for the super chat there, Kyle. Appreciate it. Where were we before? John, he says Pacheco, Josh Downs, or Cedric Tillman in a PPR league. Yikes, man. I just don't have confidence in Pacheco right now. Josh Downs, we kind of need to see him get it rolling as well. I want to say the best play is probably Cedric Tillman, but I don't have him very high in my ranks this week either. He just feels like the guy who has the best touchdown opportunity in the receiving game, and in a full PPR league, maybe he can get it going against the Detroit Lions. He's been questionable this week with a hand and a hip injury too, though. This isn't a good group of names, John, but I think Tillman is probably the guy that I would still roll out there. JSN or Benson and Igbuka. I think I'm going JSN still here. Smitty says I meant Myers. My bad. What was that original question? Myers. Instead of Olave, it was Myers. That doesn't change my answer, Smitty. I would still go with the same group of guys. Peter says I'm doing great, just working on the graphics still for the mock draft video. Man, dude, I'm sorry. We need to get you away from the computer screen every once in a while now, Peter. Get you spending some time doing some other things. My wife and I, we took a probably not the most adult of choices today, but we went down to a Target today and we bought some football cards, and we started opening some football cards when we came down just before this stream. We were trying to rip them all. I need to put them all away now. That's the worst part of opening cards, is you have to put them away afterwards. But that's what we've been doing this evening. Keaton says, what's the craziest parlay you've ever hit? Craziest you almost hit? I don't think I've ever hit anything crazy. I'd say probably a couple $100 is probably the best one. Like $600-700 is probably the best one that I've ever hit. But I'm not like a crazy gambler. I don't spend a lot of money on gambling. If I do place bets, it's usually like $20-30 bets at most, but never anything crazy. And I don't do it at a high amount. A lot of my life, I've lived in places where I haven't been able to gamble. I lived in the state of Utah for a while, couldn't gamble when I was there. Really, it's just been the time that I've lived in New Jersey that I've been able to gamble, which has been a couple of years now, and haven't spent a bunch of money. But I think the craziest we've almost hit is we had like a 10 or 12 leg parlay. This is one of my leagues. Everybody picked an anytime touchdown from somebody in their league, and it was 10 or 12 legs. I can't remember. I think it was 10-man league. 9 out of the 10 hit. One of them missed, and it would have been like a good amount of money for everybody in the league to split. But that was like the craziest one we almost did. Bert says, not sure if I ever saw or heard. How come you're not in your idiot league mates this year with BDGE and Snapback? I just don't work with that company anymore. I work with Dynasty Nerds now. I'm very blessed to be with those guys. Really enjoying my time over there, and it's been very fun. So yeah, I'm not in idiot league mates for that. I think they wanted people that are a part of the company, which makes sense. It's a BDGE office league, and I'm not in the office anymore. So still friends with a lot of those guys, still have Nick's phone number, text him every once in a while for some content advice and just life stuff. So appreciate all of those guys. There's no bad blood over there at all. Nolan says Dynasty 12 teams, start 10, 3 wide receivers, super flex, half point, tight end, premium, And he said he got offered McBride and Kamara for K9 and Nico, or McBride and Josh Jacobs for Nico and T. I'm 1 and 2. Do I trade Nico? And that is the question. You got offered McBride and Kamara for K9 and Nico. McBride and... I don't think I'd take either of these trades. Maybe the one that I do consider, though, would be... Actually, you know what? The one that I would consider would be the McBride and Josh Jacobs, but the fact that it's a dynasty, probably not. I think I'm still sitting on Nico here at these prices. If it was a redraft league, that McBride and Jacobs one would have been interesting. What are your thoughts on the consensus Chargers wide receiver rankings of QJ, Keenan, and Ladd? I asked Garrett this today on our Dynasty Nerds video. What are my thoughts? I would currently rank them for this season only, this season specifically. Ladd, McConkey, Keenan Allen, QJ. For Dynasty, it would be Ladd, QJ, Keenan. So that's kind of how I'd be looking at those guys. Who would you roll with it in the flex spot? Chubb, DJ Moore, Chase Brown, or Trey Tucker? Thanks, man. It's not going to be Chubb. It's not going to be Trey Tucker. I think it's going to be DJ Moore for me. And I wish it was Chase Brown, but it's just not going to be. It's going to be DJ Moore in my flex spot. Speaking of the devil, man, Garrett Price says, who is the smartest person at Dynasty Nerds? They made a new hire pretty recently. I can't remember where the guy came from. I think it was something called the League FFB. He's pretty good at what he does. Ryan says, yo, I traded Javonte and a 2027 first for Mason Taylor and Travis Hunter in my IDP league. What are your thoughts? I don't play much IDP, but I will say Travis Hunter probably is still pretty valuable in IDP considering the fact that he can play both sides of the ball. We'll see what happens. I honestly, I couldn't tell you though, Ryan. I don't play enough IDP to give you IDP values off the top of the brain. Jonathan says, more of a dynasty question, but I got Lamar, CMC, Demont, Garrett, Rome, Jettas, Ertz, JJ in a super flex when he comes back. I was offered Lamb for Jettas in a 1-for-1. I am in win now mode. That's very interesting. They're equal players, I think, for me. I might give the slight edge to Lamb in a win now mode type of team, but I still like JJ more long term. That's tough, man. I think my homer bias is wanting to just say keep Justin Jefferson, but you definitely have an argument to go Lamb if you're trying to win some games right now. So I think you could go either way, Jonathan. The fact that I'm leaning even towards Lamb and I'm a Vikings fan probably tells you that's probably what you should be doing if you're in win now. Anthony says, is Travis Hunter a fraud? TBD, man. I think the whole Liam Cohen Jags offense looks very fraudulent at the moment. Jeremy says, take that big nutty professor finger and hit the like buttons. Make the likes look like the views. Damn straight, man. Make the damn likes look like the views. And we're at 29 right now, so I appreciate everybody for doing it. But if we had one more, we'd be at 30. What do we got here? Ertz or Kelsey? Good question. I want to say I'm going to go Ertz here. Let me double check my rankings because I can't tell you off the top of my head. I think I'm going to go Ertz, though. Yeah, he's higher in my rankings with McLaurin out. Dixon says, tight end premium, I got offered a 2026 third and Carson Wentz for Goddard. QBs are Bo Nix and Penix. Tight ends are Kraft, Strange, Freiermuth. Tried to get a second, but he's only willing to offer a third. Should I? I mean, I don't think Goddard is a difference maker at all. And honestly, I would not start Goddard over a healthy Kraft, and I probably wouldn't start him over Strange most weeks. Maybe I'm being disrespectful to Goddard, but it feels like you need the QB a little bit more. What I would try and do is if he won't do it, I would rather do like Freiermuth for Wentz straight up, just 1-for-1, and just lose the fourth tight end and get Wentz as a QB3. That's what I would try and counter with, but if not, this is a fine deal. I think it's fine. I sold Carson Wentz for like a 4th round pick on a team that I didn't want the points, and I just sold him for a 4th round pick. It was the best offer I got, but I was like, screw it. Carson Wentz can go somewhere else. It's JJ McCarthy's team still. So, yeah, I don't mind it. Jeff says, Lions defense or Chargers defense in my rankings. I do have the Lions higher. They're my number 3 defense on the week. The Chargers are my number 6. Sutton or Olave rest of season. I still lean with Sutton rest of season. I think the offense is just better. And I have a feeling that there's going to be a quarterback change here eventually in New Orleans. And I don't know whether or not that's going to be good or bad for Olave. I couldn't really tell you. Aiden says, do you think that Breece Hall gets traded? Potentially. I feel like he's a guy that, you know, we've kind of rumored as maybe it would be a good fit for him to go to the Washington Commanders, but I haven't really heard a lot of trade rumors at the moment. It feels like those have kind of died down a little bit. Mahomes or Danny Dimes this week? God damn, I love this part of the fantasy season when we're asking questions like this, because we never thought we were asking this question about 4 weeks ago. I got Daniel Jones 1 spot higher than Patrick Mahomes this week, so Daniel Jones is my QB9, Mahomes is QB10. Peter says, did you find any cool cards? We did get like a Trevion Henderson rookie card. I got an Emeka Egbuka rookie card, a Tyler Warren rookie card, a couple others. I don't know if you can see them very well, but they're like these Halloween pack rookie cards. And we got like a numbered one too of like a Pat Freiermuth, which is a rare one, but nothing crazy. They're just fun little entry level. My wife doesn't collect anything at all, but we've got her into this. We were doing some of the Pokemon stuff. It was more fun for her to do some of the Pokemon, but she's having fun ripping these cards with me. So I'll take them. They're cheap little entry level. They're like $20 for the pack, or it's like a pack of like 40 small packs of cards. So we've been ripping those together. It's been kind of fun. I got tons of. You can't see them. Well, you can kind of see them down here. That's like just a small section of cards that I have, and I have a whole bunch over here. Like I said, I need to organize all this. We did get a super chat. I'm trying to get to that. I will get right back to you, Marcy. Jonathan says, super chat, $1.99. My bad. Was CD in there first for Jettas? Woo! Yeah, I mean, look, man, absolutely. I'm taking CD and a first for Jettas. I will do that. I was kind of leaning towards CD over Jettas in just a straight up in your situation. So if you're getting the first on top, smash accept that, man. Smash accept that. And thank you for the super chat. I appreciate you supporting this channel, man. Seriously. Marcy says, do you think that Matthew Golden will break out this week? I hope so. We've been waiting for Matthew Golden to break out. I will say I don't have him super high in my rankings this week. I do have him as my wide receiver 37. It's a good matchup for him to do it. Dallas has been very weak. They've been very vulnerable to the wide receiver position. They're dead last right now, so this would be a good week for him to break out if he's going to. I have him as my wide receiver 37, though, like I said. Probably a flex play that I would be feeling pretty lucky if I hit the breakout week. Opinion on this trade I did 2 nights ago. It's a 10-man PPR, and I gave up Lamar, Benson, BTJ for Hurts, Hampton, and Zay Flowers. Lamar, Benson, and BTJ for Hurts, Hampton, and Zay Flowers. I think I like the Hurts, the Hampton, and Zay Flowers side. So I definitely like, if you gave up the Lamar, Benson, and BTJ, I like the other side. I think it's a little bit safer and somewhat of a similar ceiling as well. So I like that. Probably hurt. I see the Ravens profile pic though. That probably hurt trading Lamar. Where are we at? Troy says, 12-team dynasty, which side do you like? Rashee Rice, Trey Benson, or a 2027 first, 28 first, and 3 seconds? It's basically, are we taking the players or are we just taking the picks? I think if you're a contending team, you take the Rice side over the 2 firsts. But that's very good compensation if you're in the middle of the pack, or if you're rebuilding or trending towards a rebuilding, I think you lean the first. So unless you're a strong contender, I'm probably just going to take the draft capital and go from there. Do you still like Egbuka over Sutton if Chris Godwin returns? He was a DNP today. He did not practice. I have Sutton as my wide receiver 16, but Egbuka is my wide receiver 13 on the week, so I would still do it, Egbuka over Sutton. You don't like Jalen Waddle this week? Jalen Waddle currently sits as my wide receiver 34. He's like a wide receiver 3/flex play for me this week. Do I trade Chase Brown for Trevion Henderson? Oh man, That's tough. It feels like Chase Brown has had a lot of the upside evaporate. I mean, I'd want more than Trevion Henderson. I'd want extra. But I think you have an argument if you're just chasing upside, because I think there is an argument that Henderson has more upside than Chase Brown moving forward. Start 2 wide receivers. We got Nico, DK, Jennings, Turpin. My league is PPR and gives points for return yards, 1 point for every 10 yards. Ooh, that's interesting. I was going to say Turpin is not in consideration until you say the return yards. That said, though, I'm going to play Nico, and I think I'm still playing DK, and those would be the 2 wide receivers. We already answered that. Marcy says, you don't like Jalen Warren this week. Most other sites have him, or most other sites are higher on him. I was surprised you chose JMO and Javonte over him. I currently have Jalen Warren. It's tough because he just showed up today questionable with a knee injury on the depth chart. So or on the injury report. So I don't really know what's going to happen with him with that international game, with that injury. But that Vikings defense is kind of tough. I would still go Javonte over him. And Jamar, I'd be looking for big plays. I think if Jalen Warren's healthy and he's on the football field, I feel a little bit better. But that late week injury report with the knee injury makes me a little bit nervous for him. 14-team league, would you trade Addison away for Chase Brown? My wide receivers are Chase, Adams, Rice, Garrett Wilson, Addison, Dobbs, Palmer, Burden. Also, who would you trade away for a solid running back? 2, I only have Cook in a redraft league. In a redraft league, I'm okay moving Addison for Chase Brown. Like I said, some of the upside feels like it's gone, but your wide receiver room is fine with Chase, Adams, Rice, and Garrett Wilson. You're going to be good there. I would try and move like Addison for... I mean, we just talked about Trevion Henderson. Could you move Addison for a Trevion Henderson? Could you move him for a... maybe a Cam Scatterboo if somebody likes Addison like that? Could you move him for a Trey Benson? Could you move him for a Swift maybe, or a David Montgomery would be a safe, solid running back too? Those would be kind of the guys that I'd be looking at. I don't mind the Chase Brown. If you have a Chase Brown offer, I think that's fine. He swapped it, Lamb and their first rounder for Jetta's. I think that's, like I said, I think that's Lamb and a first for Jetta's is good. Running backs, would you go after those? Okay, we did kind of answer that for you, Frank. Dustin says, what are your thoughts on stashing Woody Marks if I have Chubb? You should be doing it. You absolutely should be doing it. And if he's not on the back end of your bench right now, please go do it, because I think this week we might see Woody Marks take majority of the backfield over Chubb. So this is the week to do it. I put him in the stash video this week for sure. Brian says, half PPR, start 2 running backs between Kamara, Pollard, and Chase Brown. I'm going to go Kamara, and then I think I'll go Chase Brown over Pollard. I still cannot trust this Titans offense to save my life, man. Are your rankings published someplace? I do them in Fantasy Pros rankings that they have for their like fantasy experts or whatever. So I do it in there. It doesn't get published anywhere. I am working on, hopefully this time next year, Marcy, you'll be able to see all of them on our website that we're going to be developing and making a website here for the League FFB where you can just find our rankings on the website. So at the moment right now, you cannot find them. The best way to get my rankings is to just ask me where I got guys. But they are on, I guess, technically on Fantasy Pros, but I don't know if anybody can ever see those. Maybe there's a way for people to see them. I don't know. Has anybody in here ever searched up one of their favorite fantasy analysts' rankings on Fantasy Pros? Because that's where I publish mine. Start 2, Pittman, Metcalf, Devonta Smith. Give me Metcalf and Smitty. I'm a contender, BTJ or Romo Dunze in a dynasty. Wow, man, I think we're really at a point where I think I would just prefer Rome over BTJ moving forward. I think Rome's legit. I think he's here, and I think he's the better contending piece. So I think I'm going Rome over BTJ in Dynasty. Anthony says Daniel Jones, Mahomes in the same ranking comments is absolutely nuts. What a wild season. This happens every year, man. Last year, it was, you would have never asked, are we playing Sam Darnold or are we playing Jalen Hurts? Because there were people asking me that last year too. But hey, this is where we are. Grant says it hurt, bro. I'm just so high on Amarion Hampton, and he has top 3 running back potential rest of the season. I agree. I'm sure it did too. I never have an easy time trading away any of my Vikings. Dixon says start 1 full PPR. We got Golden, Worthy, Booty, and Pacheco. I'm gonna go with Worthy as my 1 play. One more question in a full PPR. Start 1, Zay Flowers or Breece Hall. Right now I have Breece for the matchup. Thanks, dog. Like I said, I like the matchup for Breece Hall as well. It's pretty good. I have him as a guy who's a top 13, 14-ish play in my rankings. When I look at Zay Flowers right now in my PPR rankings, this is a player who is going to be about wide receiver 12. So I think if you're looking for the safe PPR play, I probably would lean with the wide receiver who's just 1 spot higher. But I'd be trying to get both of these guys in my lineup if I could, Grant. ETN, Hendo, Tootin, Chubb, pick 2. I'm going to go with ETN and Hendo. Those would be my 2 plays, Caleb. I'm not playing Tootin confidently, and I don't like, I just don't like what we've been getting out of Nick Chubb, and I don't think it's going to get any better. He says, keep grinding, bro. Appreciate you, Caleb. And keep putting up some content over there at 4 for 4, man. I appreciate you coming in and hanging out in the broadcast too, or in the streams as well. So I know you're a busy guy these days. Appreciate you spending some time with me. Marcy says, thanks, Andrew. Always appreciate you. And I always appreciate you too, Marcy. Thank you for always being here. Hakuna Matata says, flex Flowers or Pearsall. I wasn't sure to start Pearsall since I have CMC. I would play Flowers over Pearsall quite easily. What are you trading for Scatterboo in Dynasty? I'm looking at him for depth. I mean, if you're looking for like added, like if it's just draft capital that I'm shifting over, I think Scatterboo already at this point is like late first type of potential for a contending roster. Maybe he's 2 seconds or 2 seconds and a third at this point in time is what it's going to take to get Scatterboo. But that's kind of like the draft capital range for him. It would have been really nice for you to buy. Obviously, this is hindsight 2020, but it would have been really nice to buy him before last week because I think the price probably doubled by then. You have to have a Premium Fantasy Pros membership to see your rankings, I believe. Free only gives you like 30 rankers. So you have to have like a pro membership. Wow. Well, you have to have a pro membership to go see the rankings. But then as the ranker, you don't see a dime of that. Goddamn, Fantasy Pros. I didn't know you were pimping me out like that. Ronaldo says, should I trade BTJ and for Ashton Genty? My other running backs are Swift and Hall, and my wide receivers are AJ, Keenan, Quinton, Ioman, or Mike Evans. Thank you. These guys are going to be in the same tier. I would probably, with your team, rather have the wide receiver than the running backs. It feels like both kind of need a little bit of help, but I think I'd rather have the wide receiver still. Marcy says, glad to hear you are developing a website. Would love to support you. You are so helpful. I appreciate that. Seriously. I mean, that's the goal, is eventually we'll have like a whole bunch of tools and a website where you guys can just find all of my stuff. So like that would be the best way to do it, rather than putting a little bit of stuff here, a little bit of stuff there, something over somewhere else. Like it would be nice to just have like a central hub for all things me. And I really would appreciate the support. And you always have been supportive. So thank you for that. Nolan says, Dynasty, Nico Collins or McBride and a half-point tight end premium. Is Nico a top 12 wide receiver in Dynasty for you, and why? Yes, he's still a top 12 wide receiver in Dynasty for me. I still would probably take him over McBride in just a half-point tight end premium. It hasn't been a good start, but I still think he's a very elite wide receiver, and the competition that he has there hasn't really hurt his target share for the most part. I think he's still a player that I would definitely be taking. We need CJ Stroud to kind of bounce back, but yeah, I still like Nico a lot. Here's who I'm starting right now for the Brees and Zay question. Hampton, Kyron, London, AJ Brown. Tricky to start Zay or Brees over them. Interesting. Let me see what I can find here. London and AJ. It's tough to start him over both of those guys. I agree. I would start London and AJ over him. Hampton and Kyron would be the guys that you're starting. I would play Hampton. I think I would play Brees over Kyron. I'd probably go Hampton, Brees, London, AJ, and I think I'd go Zay. I think I would bench Kyron. I think that's what I would do. Frank says, I got an offer of Laporta to trade away. Or I got an offer for Laporta to trade away BTJ in a tight end premium. My tight ends are Kraft and Henry. Wide receivers are Neighbors, BTJ, London, Ekbuka, QJ, Rice, Tet, Rice, and Pearsall. Redraft, should I make this trade? Nope, I would not make this trade. I would rather have BTJ than Sam Laporta, especially considering you have Tucker Kraft and Hunter Henry already on the roster. MK says Purdy versus the Jags or Jones versus the Rams. Could be fun to have that Purdy Pearsall stack, but Jones seems like a must start at this point. Yeah, I have him higher. He's a top 10 guy for me this week. I would be playing Daniel Jones. What do we got? AMJ says Superflex, 12 teams, start 11. Who do I start in my Superflex spot? Henderson, Mariota, or Penix? I'm going to lean with the quarterback. I'm not going to play Henderson over those two QBs. And if I have to pick between Penix and Mariota, just give me Penix versus Washington. Dustin says, everybody's been stashing defenses in my league, streaming Chargers this week. Is there a sneaky defense that you would stash? Let's see. I'm gonna give you a couple that I like for next week potentially. The Bills defense, maybe. The Steelers defense might be sneaky next week. Maybe the Raiders defense is sneaky in like week 5 and 6. Actually, not the Pittsburgh Steelers. I apologize. I don't like that one actually. Yeah, I would say probably like Arizona or the Raiders defense, and probably Buffalo's defense if they're available. Team PPR, my current wide receiver room is Zay, BTJ, Rashi, Waddle, Jennings, Mooney. Is this good enough for a deep run if I am strong everywhere else? Lamar, Bijan, Jacobs, Kittle as others. Yeah, I think this room's gonna feel a lot better once you have Rashi back into the lineup. I think this is fine. I think Zay and Rashi will be very reliable players for you. BTJ, we hope he gets it, cranked up a little bit as the season goes on, but I think this is fine. I wouldn't say it's like an elite wide receiver room, but it's good enough, especially if you're strong everywhere else, like you said. Grant says, also, I want to brag about this trade that I made. I gave up Pollard, Spears, and Cup for Brees and Golden. My God. Well, congratulations to you, Grant. Frank says, is Stevenson droppable? Almost. Probably almost. I would say, yeah. I mean, if you have a good waiver wire, there's probably some other shots that I would rather have than Stevenson. I think I would rather have like a Woody Marks than a Stevenson at this point. Peter says, I love your 206 pick in the rookie draft. Dude, I thought I was crazy the fact that he was still there, but everybody made it seem like I was making a bad pick. For the record, folks, in the chat, the pick that I made at 206 was Arch Manning, and everybody thought I had picked the worst player in the draft. At least that's the way the room felt when I said it. Flex Tyquan Thornton JCM, or Calvin Austin. I don't know how you rate Thornton with Worthy coming back. He loses some of his lust with Worthy back into the lineup. If I have to pick any of these guys, he's probably still the guy that I pick, though. I'm not comfortably throwing JCM into any lineups until I see some signs of life. And then Calvin Austin is like, whatever. Whatever. That's the best way I could describe the way I feel about Calvin Austin, is just whatever. Nino says, my 12-team league wide receiver core is looking very sketchy with Neighbors, Jacoby, Ellick, and Diggs. Just those four. So would you send McBride for like Rice and Godwin? I don't mind it. I don't mind it. If you need the wide receiver help, I don't mind sending McBride for Rice and a Godwin. Team Superflex PPR, very minimal impact trade, but do you give Ray Davis for Anthony Richardson? Jesus. QBs are May, Caleb, Malik Willis, Bajent. Running backs are Judkins, ETN, Scat, JCM, Chris Rodriguez, a few more dart throws. I mean, I'm assuming this is a dynasty. You're not trading for A-Rich in a redraft. I'd just rather have Ray Davis. I think A-Rich is cooked. I don't think he's a good quarterback at all. That's just kind of where I'm at with him. Nico or Travis and a 27 first. Give me Nico. Should I sell high on Keenan and Pittman? It depends on what you can get, but I don't mind you exploring some moves off of those guys. I think those guys have had good starts, but I don't think they're game breakers either, so I don't mind you selling high if you can. Will says, first year in a 12-team dynasty, I got the second and third best value overall. Second to third best value overall, but the worst running back room, starting with Jonathan Taylor and Kenny Gainwell this week. Who would be a good running back to trade for with a second and a third? Good question. If you're giving up a second and a third, I mean, ideally you find teams that look like they're not going to be competitive, and then you use the draft capital as leverage, hopefully getting you a little bit of a better deal. But if you're getting a second and a third, could you sell Dobbins? I mean, could you sell a second and a third for J.K. Dobbins? Could you do a second and a third for Jordan Mason? Could you do it for Trey Benson? Could you do it for David Montgomery? Feels a little bit more than that, but maybe him. Like, those would be the guys that I'd be looking at. Dustin says, thank you for all of your help and have a great night. Thank you, Dustin, and you have a great night as well. Appreciate you stopping in and hanging out. Mr. Magic says, do I play Chase Brown at all or Henderson? I'm losing a lot of my faith in Chase Brown. I think I would still play him over Henderson, but they're back-to-back in my rankings. Do we see Ridley making some sort of a bounce back? I don't like this Titans offense. I think it's going to take a little while for them to get it going. Ridley to me is like a flex play in good matchups and then a bench player for you that you're not plugging into your lineups in the rough ones. So not a big fan of Ridley moving forward. AMJ says, thank you, Drew. Quick second question. I got a 12-team Superflex PPR and a tight end premium start 11. I traded for CD from a wide receiver needy owner, and I gave up T. Higgins in 2 seconds. What are your thoughts? Just for context, Higgins is my wide receiver 4. I love it. I love it. I mean, I think you know that I would like it, but that's a good trade for you. Commanders at Atlanta or the Rams versus Indiana. I would probably go... I think I'm going to go with probably the Commanders. Yeah, I think I'm going to go the Commanders. You think Marv was just in his head last night, had people calling him a bust? We kind of talked about this in my home league group chat. It was like, if you guys have followed the channel for a while, MFGD's War from Let's Talk Dynasty, he was saying he's like, I think Marv was in his head. So that was a conversation we had. Could be. It was kind of odd to see him be a little bit emotional after that touchdown catch, but I get it. I totally get it. Probably a little bit of it. I saw Ron Stewart say that he probably needs to be working with a sports psychiatrist at the moment, and I don't necessarily disagree with that. So maybe a little bit in his head, but it was good to see him kind of have a bounce back fourth quarter and stuff. A-Rod says, with me rebuilding, would it be silly of me to accept an offer of Brees for Zamir White and a late first? I would want more than that. I would want more than that for Brees, but I like the idea of moving Brees in a rebuild, but I want more than that. Mr. Magic says, do I trade Pollard, Pittman, and Keenan for Brees and Tyreek? I kind of like it. I think Brees is an upgrade to Pollard. I'd probably send Pittman and Pollard for Brees, and then Keenan for Tyreek. It's not bad. Luther Burden is available right now in my league. Do I dump Corum, handcuff for Kyron, who I have, for Burden to stash? If I'm the Kyron owner, I don't really want to burn 2 roster spots on the backfield. But I think you have to at this point with the way that Corum's being used. So I probably would still hold Corum over Burden. But Burden's a good stash. I had him featured in this week's video. Dylan says he's 0-3 and I need to win this week in a full PPR league. Would you trade Olave and Henderson for Brees Hall, McConkey, and Golden? I would. I would send Olave and Hendo for Brees, McConkey, and Golden. Yep. Frank says, would you rather have Stroud or T-Law rest of season? And is Xavier Scott worth a stash? My running backs are Cook, Braylon Davis, and Rashad White. Would you drop Burden for him? Sorry, I'm in 26 leagues this year. It's good to be in that many leagues. I would not be picking up Xavier Scott at this point in time. I would still have Luther Burden on the roster over Xavier Scott. I would probably go T-Law over Stroud rest of season, though. Browning bounce back game. Chase Brown 20 points in full PPR. I freaking hope so, MK. Frank says wishful thinking, but I hope so because I'm playing Chase Brown. I'm starting Chase Brown in one of my leagues, and it feels so dirty. It feels grimy to play Chase Brown at the moment. Free Kirko Chains. I mean, we'll see. I think he would be. If he went to Cincinnati, that would be a good spot. If he went to, I don't know, somewhere. I mean, he's better than a lot of these. He's better than some of these backup quarterbacks. A lot of these backup quarterbacks. Chandler says, would you move CMC, Kelsey, Garrett Wilson for Bucky, McBride, BTJ? I think I'd rather have CMC, Garrett Wilson, Kelsey. If drops are because of weak mental game, then that's still a talent / skill issue in my opinion. It becomes more complicated if he was a proven stud and then he drops, and then the drops happen like BTJ. Not the same at all, in my opinion. It makes sense. I agree. I'm not disagreeing in by any means that the mental aspect of football is still an aspect of football that you have to hone and craft and kind of be good at. So I would say I agree with a good portion of this. Marcy says, I lost Burrow and just lost CD for a few weeks. My team is Drake May, JT, Javonte, Jalen Warren, CD London, Igbuka, Jamo, Golden, Marks, and Tracy. What should I be looking for in a trade? I think you're good. You honestly have a really good team that should be able to float through a CD Lamb injury for a few weeks. I would say, if anything, I would just try and consolidate maybe some of this. I would probably try and take like a break. If Golden has a breakout game, I would try and take like him and JMO and try and like consolidate them and upgrade that to a different player. Like maybe, let me see. If Golden has the breakout game, could you consolidate him and JMO for like a DK? Or could you consolidate them for a McConkey if he keeps having bad games? Like something like that. I would try and look at that. McConkey might be a little bit too much. Pearsall, maybe something like that along those lines. I'm sorry. I saw the muted and stuff. I'm going to go back. Did you guys hear this J Dabs one? Did we hear this one? I'm going to go back. Marcy, so what I said to yours, I just want to make sure I hit everybody. I just want to make sure I hit everybody. But what I'm going to say is, for Marcy, it was JMO and Golden. If they have a good week, I would try and consolidate those guys and try and get into like a Ricky Pearsall or a Lad if he keeps having bad games, maybe a DK Metcalf. That's something that I would try and do. So there we are. I would say with J Dabs, he said, would you trade this and do that? I would take the Kyron, the Corum, and the third side. I would take that if I'm a contending team. And then Grant said, would you mind saying your top 5 defenses? I'm sorry, folks. My bad. I went to go take a sip of water, and then I guess I didn't unmute, or I pressed the button. It didn't work. But I think hopefully I got people their answers. But my 5 defenses this week, my top 5. I got the Broncos, the Bills, the Lions, the Texans, and the Vikings. Those are my top 5 defenses this week. So if the Bills are available, I would be picking them up and playing them against the Saints. And then I will let you guys know too, we're wrapping up towards the end of the stream. We usually go for about an hour. It's been about 56, 57 minutes. So once we get caught up at the very bottom, I am going to kind of wrap up the stream and close that out with the outro and stuff. So get those final questions in the chat if I haven't answered your questions today, or if I did answer your questions today and you haven't hit the like button, please do me the favor and do that. That would be great. But go get those last second questions here in the chat. But let's go to Mr. Magic, who says, is Jordan Mason a sell high right now? I do think that Aaron Jones is going to be a little bit involved when he comes back, but I think Jordan Mason is going to play well enough that he kind of takes over the majority of the backfield. It's probably going to be like a 60-40 split in favor of Mason. So if you think you can get more than that, I'm fine for it, but I do think that his role will be larger from now on moving forward. I don't think he's going to go back to the backup behind Aaron Jones. Do you think Jackson Dart is going to pop off? I really do like Jackson Dart. I'm a fan of Jackson Dart. I think he's going to be a pretty solid quarterback. This is a rough part of their schedule right now. This week's matchup is pretty tough. Not super confident starting him this week. So next week would be a good one for Jackson Dart to pop off. I think they play the New Orleans Saints next week. So it would be a good week for him to beat up on the Saints. Team half PPR start 2. You got Pearsall, Chase Brown, or Tet. Give me Tet and Pearsall. Bradley says, what's up, my man? What's up, Bradley? Good to see you here, man. And then Dab says, appreciate it, brother. And Bradley says, do you think that there's any chance for Pacheco to take over this backfield and be valuable? We'll see. I saw reports that they're unhappy with what they're getting out of their run game. I don't know, what that means. Probably part of the reason why you're unhappy with what you're getting out of your run game is because you keep running fucking Kareem Hunt every damn day. But I'm frustrated with it, man. I'm very overweight on Pacheco this offseason. Hopefully there's a chance. Hopefully. But I don't feel as confident today as I felt about Pacheco going into the offseason, obviously. Appreciate you, Frank. Thank you for that. AMJ says, in a different league, 12-team, Superflex, PPR, tight end premium, start 11, I was offered Kyron Williams for Genty and a first. For context, I'm a contending team with Barkley and Bucky as my other starters. Yeah, I mean, I would rather have Genty and the first. Will says, anything to keep in mind with Dynasty trade calculators? Best way to use people using them to your advantage. Here's the best way to do it. If you know people in your leagues are using specific calculators, make sure you are solidified in your own rankings, how you feel about players, and exploit those calculators. If a specific calculator has a guy ranked much higher than you do in your personal rankings, and you know somebody uses that, sell them that at that price. So you just got to kind of know which guys use which, and exploit the overvalued or maybe the undervalued players in those calculators as well. Vince says, in a dynasty one quarterback league, are you moving Jettas for Rice, a late 26 first and an early to mid 27 first? Ooh. That's a lot of draft capital, and that's a good player. I hate to move a player like Jetta's, but an early to mid 27 first and a late 26 first. I think the early to mid 27 and Rice and the first, I think I'm probably taking that side. Champagne says, hello, would you trade Kamara and Worthy for Amon-Ra? Hell yes, I would be doing that. What can I get back for Pickens now in Dynasty? I mean, he's worth a first. You can probably get a first for him. It doesn't matter the draft class or the year. You can definitely get a first for him. I think he's also a player that if you were looking for like cross-positionally a player in a Dynasty league that maybe you want a running back or something, you might be able to get a guy like, I mean, you could probably get a 2-for-1, like a ETN in a Dynasty plus maybe something, Chuba plus something maybe. But that's kind of what I'd be looking at. But he's a first round pick. If I'm selling him just straight for draft capital, I'm wanting a first. Tingley says, hey, yo, should I start Baker or stream Caleb or Fields? 4-point passing touchdown. I'd have to drop either Baker or Mandrews to pick up the other QB. The highest quarterback in my rankings out of this bunch this week is... Caleb is the highest in my rankings. So you'd have to drop either Baker or Mandrews to pick up your other QB. I think I would stream Caleb and I would drop Mark Andrews. Yeah, I think that's probably what I'm doing. You're also going to have Isaiah Likely back this week, it sounds like. Agreed, hoping for a decent game versus the Ravens. I hope so, man. I really do. Sorry, Andrew, I said that wrong. I was offered Kyron and a first for Genty. I would take Genty over Kyron and a first still. Should I trade Genty already and redraft, and who would you target for him? I'm not selling Genty right now. I think this week is a pretty decent matchup for him. To get it kind of on track. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer for these rookies. He plays the Bears, though. The Bears have been pretty bad on defense. So I still have Genty as a top 13 play. I'm not trading him yet. I'm holding it out just a couple more weeks, 1 or 2 more weeks. And then Marcy said, I heard you on my question. You did get muted after me. Okay, so I'm glad that we got that covered. Brendan says, dynasty question for you. Jefferson and Goff or Burrow, Worthy, and a first? Jeez. I'm assuming it's super flex. I think I want Jefferson and Goff, but that's tough. And he says it's a 26 first. John says Penix, London, or Dak in a 2026 first and 27 first. Dynasty Superflex start 10. Don't have depth to compete. And he says I just subscribed. So thank you, John, for subscribing. But Penix, London, or Dak, a first and 2 first, basically. If you don't have the depth to compete, this is fine compensation. It's like 2 firsts for London, and I think Dak and Penix are somewhat similar in value. I think if I don't have the depth to compete and I'm playing for the future, though, I think I still just want to build around Penix and London. So I'm going to take the Penix and London side. It's good value both ways, but I'll take Penix and London if I'm playing for the future. John says, I really hope Brees gets traded to the Chiefs or something for my dynasty team's sake. That would be awesome. And he says John is such a great name to the other John. And then Frank with the last question here. This is the last question, folks. He says, what is a fair trade for Genty in redraft? It's a good question. Let's pull up Fantasy Calc. I'm going to pull that up, and I'll tell you the guys kind of around him in that range and who I would actually trade him for, just to give you some real names in that range that are realistic. But right now on Fantasy Calc, Ashton Genty is the running back 13. He's around Romo Dunze, where I would rather have Romo Dunze than Ashton Genty. I would rather have Drake London than Ashton Genty. Um, the other guys around him are like AJ Brown, Kyron. I think I still prefer Genty to those two guys. Adams, I would prefer Genty. Egbuka, I would probably prefer Genty, but it's not. I'm not super confident in that one. BTJ, I'd rather have Genty. I think that's where we're at. So if you can move Genty for like a Romo Dunze or a Drake London, I'm for it. I'm for it. And Chris, I'll let you be the last question, actually, the buzzer beater. Um, start sit question and a drop question. T Mac or Judkins in the flex? I would go with T Mac over Judkins in the flex. And then I'm assuming there's a drop question coming, but I will say, once we get that drop question in here from Chris, that is it for the night, folks. If you are still in the chat and you haven't done so already, please do me the favor. We're at 46 likes right now. I'd love to see that number hit 50 by the time we get on out of here. So if 4 people who have not liked the stream yet can go over there and hit that like button for me, that would be awesome. And also, just a reminder too, you can always support this show over on Underdog. This is one of our only sponsor, really one of 2 sponsors that really does help fund the show. So if you use code LeagueFFB, you've never played on Underdog, and you play $5, they will give you $50 in bonus funds, and they will give you a gimme pick as well. So that'll get you a head start to kind of win this weekend over with a pick 'em play. So you can do that over on Underdog. Like I said, promo code LeagueFFB is the way to support the show, and that does help in a ton of ways. So like I said, if you don't want to support the show though financially, or you can't support the show financially, best way is to hit that like button. Hit that like button for us, folks. Last question. We didn't see the drop one come in from Chris, but Nate says, who do I start, BTJ or Keenan Allen? I would go Keenan Allen over Brian Thomas Jr. But that's it, folks. Appreciate everybody tonight for coming in, hanging out with me. Means a lot. Again, we're going to be live on Sunday morning before the games. Now, this is a international game week, so we're going to be early morning risers in this one, about 8:30. I want to say the game's at 9:30. Can't remember, but an hour before the international game, we will be live. So it's going to be an earlier stream this week than it normally is. But that's all I have for you guys today. So nothing else. Appreciate you guys. Keep supporting the content. Keep hitting the like buttons. Keep, subscribing and talking in the chats and doing all that stuff. We'll see you in the Discord. But love all you guys. Till then, peace out.